Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Mindy Mandell. Today I'm going to be talking about propositions 137 through 140 in Proclus's Elements of Theology. Now this video is part of a series. For those of you who want the playlist, here it is. As always, I am using the E.R. Dodds translation, and if you need a PDF version, there is a link in the description box. Today's propositions are going to continue developing the ideas introduced in my last video. Proposition 137 reads, "Every he-nad is cooperative with the one in producing the real existent which participates it." So this builds on Proposition 135, which links one real existent to one he-nad, creating what you might call a God that is. Now we are seeing that the supra-existential he-nads are causes of said real existence. Proclus writes, "For as the one is constitutive of all things, so it is the cause both of the participated he-nads and of the real existence dependent upon them. At the same time, the dependent existents are severally produced by the he-nads which irradiate them." The last part of the sentence is drawing from Proposition 125. This was a very beautiful proposition. This one reads, "From that station wherein he first reveals himself, every God proceeds through all the secondary orders, continually multiplying and particularizing his bestowals, yet preserving the distinctive character of his proper nature." So we see here that the he-nads each multiply through the unfolding of their order. It says multiplying and particularizing his bestowals. So there is a multiplying going on as the series unfolds. And that same idea is here. The dependent existents are severally produced by the he-nads which irradiate them. Proclus goes on to say, "To the one they owe simply their existence. Their community of nature with a particular he-nad is due to the activity of that he-nad." Remember, they get a particular character from the he-nad at the head of the series, the character that is the mark of that series. But the more universal characteristic, existence, comes from the higher cause, the one. And Proclus goes on, "Thus it is the he-nad which imposes its own character upon the participating existent and displays existentially in the latter the quality which itself possesses supra-existentially." In other words, the he-nad has some quality supra-existentially. It communicates that quality at the level of being to the real existent. And to explain this, Proclus tells us that it is always by derivation from the primal that the secondary is what it is. Now, Dodd cited Proposition 18. I don't know if this one actually fits, though, because we'll see in a moment here that Proposition 18 actually deals with things that exist, not the supra-existential. So this one reads that everything which by its existence bestows a character on others itself primitively possesses that character which it communicates to the recipients. And then you see the first line there, if it bestows by mere existence. So in order to apply this to the one or to the he-nads, we do have to expand our understanding of existence. We often use this word, though. We often do talk this way, like the one doesn't do anything to create. It creates by its mere existence. It's just an overflow. Or existence is an overflow from the one. So if you're speaking in this looser way, then you may understand it this way. It seems a bit loose for a work of this nature, but it is possible to apply this to the he-nads. And here's Proclus's conclusion. Hence, whatever supra-existential character is proper to a particular divinity appears existentially in the real existent, which participates it. So from the one itself, the real existent gets its existence. From its proper henad, it gets its proper character. In this way, then, the supra-existential character appears existentially in the participant. Okay, Proposition 138. Of all the principles which participate the divine character and are thereby divinized, the first and highest is being. So we are getting more into the mapping of the hierarchy here. We are seeing here the majesty of intelligible being. And as we have already seen, being is prior to life and intellect. And Proposition 101 reads, all things which participate intelligence are preceded by the unparticipated intelligence, those which participate life by life, and those which participate being by being. And of these three unparticipated principles, being is prior to life and life to intelligence. And again, Dodds always translates nous as intelligence. It's often translated as intellect instead. Either way, whichever word you prefer, it is nous in Greek. And here what we're focusing on are the three aspects of the intelligible, which in order are being, and then life, and then intellect or intelligence. And now in Proposition 138, we are seeing an implication of this ordering. Proclus writes, for if, as has been shown, being is beyond both intelligence and life, since next to the one it is the most universal cause, then it follows that it must be the highest participant. It has more of unity than intelligence or life, and is therefore necessarily more august. Now, Proposition 62 is the one that states that power is commensurate with unity. So being is more powerful than life or intellect because it is higher rank, and so more unified. And Proclus goes on, prior to intelligible being, there is no further principle save the one. For what else save unity can precede the unitary manifold? And he's calling being here a unitary manifold because it is the most unified of the three intelligible terms. And I do think it's important to point out here that Dodds is using the word unity for the Greek toen, which is often translated as the one. And building on the previous sentence, Proclus goes on to say, and being, as composite of limit and infinite, is a unitary manifold. And Proclus is reminding us that being is a unity. It is not a pure one. And just a reminder that back in Proposition 89, Proclus told us that all true being is composed of limit and infinite. So it shares in limit because of its proximity to the pure one. And being so close to the one, its power is commensurate with its unity. It therefore also shares in the infinite potency or power that is the mark of that proximity to the one. And Proclus goes on, to use a more general argument, there can be nothing prior to the principle of existence unless it be the supra-existential. So this is easy enough to see. Anything prior to the principle of existence, then by definition does not exist. And this is the very meaning of supra-existential. It means beyond existence. For again, in the irradiation of secondary things, unity, the one, alone has a longer reach than being, and being stands immediately next to it. Now this last part can be a bit confusing. It reads, that which as yet is not, but exists only potentially, has already a natural unity. all that lies above this level has actual existence. The confusion here is that you're very likely using the words potential and actual differently than Proclus does. We tend to use the word actual to refer to things in our physical world that we can experience with our senses, whereas we use the word potential to refer to ideas that have not yet been manifested in our physical world. However, the Platonists turn this on its head. The intelligible world, the world of the eidos, or the forms or ideas, is what is most real. In other places, I have called these things in themselves, or absolute realities. And as these realities unfold, they fall further away from unity, and they also fall further away from power. And so they fall from actuality to potentiality. Physical matter is not what is most real to a Platonist. Now, we don't go so far as to call this physical world an illusion in the sense of having no reality at all. But we see the physical world as having a mode of reality that falls short of the true reality that is the intelligible world. Now, with this in mind, I will go back to the text. So again, Proclus wrote, "That which as yet is not, but exists only potentially, has already a natural unity. All that lies above this level has actual existence." So things in our physical world, although they lack the unity of intelligible being, they do have a natural unity to them. In fact, nothing can exist without unity. Anything you see around you, the computer or phone that you're watching this video on, books, tables, chairs, anything, they must have unity to exist. If you take away the unity of a table, you have just a pile of wood. And Proclus then ends the sentence by stating that beyond the level of unity that you find in this world of potentiality, there is a more unified, more potent realm of actual existence. And then Proclus concludes, "So in the first principles there must be a corresponding order. Immediately beyond being must stand a not being, which is unity and superior to being." A more literal translation would be, "Immediately beyond being must stand a not being, which is superior to being and one." And I will add, this not being is what we know as the one. Proposition 139. The sequence of principles which participate the divine henads extends from being to the bodily nature. Since being is the first, as we saw in the previous proposition, and body, inasmuch as we speak of heavenly or divine bodies, is the last participant. So here we see that we're going to be looking more closely at the ordering of existences that participate the henads. And he starts his explanation like this. "For in each class of existence, bodies, souls, intelligences, the highest members belong to the gods, in order that in every rank there may be terms analogous to the gods. And this maintains the secondaries in unity and preserves them in being." Let me pause here for a moment. What does it mean to say that the highest members of each class belong to the gods? Now, Proclus doesn't name or clarify what are the classes of existence, but when we're talking about real existence, we're generally talking about the absolute realities, motion, rest, justice, and so on. They run through all the realms, and you see 3 examples here of realms: the mundane realm, the realms of soul, and of intellect. Each series has unity by participation, and it gets that unity by participation in the gods. And as I was talking about a moment ago in Proposition 138, Nothing can exist without unity. Therefore, this unity that comes from the gods preserves the monads in being. Now, Proclus goes on. And that each series may have the completeness of a whole in the part, embracing in itself all things, and before all else, the character of deity. Now, this phrase, whole in the part, hasn't come up for a while. This came up back in Proposition 67. Every whole is either a whole before the parts, a whole of parts, or a whole in the part. And I'm just going to jump down to one line in the explanation. The whole of parts is the whole as existence, and that would be the middle term, by the way, of the triad. The whole before the parts is the whole in its cause. That would be the first of the triad. And the whole in the part is the whole by participation. And this whole by participation is what we're focused on now. The intelligible realities make their home in intelligible intellect, which is the third in the intelligible triad. Going on to the rest of the sentence here, this reference to Proposition 103 for the phrase embracing in itself all things, it's giving us an excuse to look back at a very beautiful proposition. This one reads, all things are in all things, but in each according to its proper nature. For in being there is life and intelligence, in life being and intelligence, in intelligence being in life. But each of these exists upon one level intellectually, upon another vitally, and on the third existentially. Proclus actually presented the three in reverse order at the end. Third then does not mean the extremity of the intelligible triad. The three exist existentially in being, vitally in life, and intellectually in intelligence or intellect, in nous. We are seeing that each series is not only intellectual, but also existent and vital. And the sentence ends with the words, and before all else, the character of deity. This touches on an idea that I actually talked about back in Proposition 137 at the beginning of this video. There we saw that the gods each bestowed some particular characteristic, but existence came from the one. Now, to see this idea more clearly, I will refer back to Proposition 70. And Proposition 70 states, all those more universal characters which inhere in the originative principles both irradiate their participants before the specific characters, and they're slower to withdraw from a being which has once shared in them. So here we're focusing on the part about them irradiating their participants before the specific characters. So universal characteristics are bestowed prior to particular ones. And unity is the most universal of all, so it then is bestowed first. If I go a little further down, we see it here also that the higher cause, being more efficacious, operates sooner upon the participant. Proclus then goes on to say that thus deity exists on the corporeal, the psychical, and the intellective level, evidently by participation in each case, since deity in the primary sense is proper to the Henads. Now, Proclus in other places, such as his Theology of Plato, writes about mundane gods, the supermundane gods, which are the gods of the psychical level, and also intellectual gods. There are other ranks as well, but these are the ones that are mentioned here. And the existence of these different ranks of gods follows from the highest member in each realm belonging to the gods. Okay, and then Proclus concludes. The sequence then of principles which participate the divine Henads begins with being and ends with the bodily nature, the mundane gods. And Proposition 140. All the powers of the gods, taking their origin above and proceeding through the appropriate intermediaries, descend even to the last existence and the terrestrial regions. Now, if you're feeling a little deja vu here, it might be because this proposition is reminiscent of Proposition 122. So Proposition 122 is the one that reads, all that is divine both exercises providence towards secondary existences and it transcends the beings for which it provides. Its providence involves no remission of its pure and unitary transcendence, and neither does its separate unity annul its providence. So usually in the unfolding of reality, we see a declension or a diminution of power as a series unfolds. And with that weakening of power, there's a commensurate level of differentiation. But there's no weakening of the gods, no declension from their unity, which is their substance. And so the gods have filled all things with their power. The gods are beyond space and time, and so in that way they are present to all alike, unvaryingly. The gods are often compared to sunlight. The sun does not choose who or what to shine on and then deny sunlight to others. It simply shines. It shines equally on all. But all do not equally participate in that sunlight. Those that are farther removed from the sun and those that are in the shade are going to receive less. Coming back now to Proposition 140, Proclus here refers to the powers of the gods. But we know from Proposition 122 and also other propositions as well, that the power of the gods is first and foremost providential. So all the powers of the gods, taking their origin above and proceeding through the appropriate intermediaries, descend even to the last existence and the terrestrial regions. For on the one hand, there is nothing to exclude these powers or hinder them from reaching all things. They do not require space at all or spatial intervals, since they transcend all things without relation and are everywhere present without admixture. I haven't returned to Proposition 98 in a while, so I'll take a quick jump back there. Every cause which is separate from its effects exists at once, everywhere and nowhere. So this is the proposition that describes causes as both transcending their effects and immanent in them. And this is the same idea expressed here in Proposition 140. And Proclus goes on, nor again is the fit participant balked of its participation. So soon as a thing is ready for communion with them, straightway they are present. Not that in this moment they approached or till they were absent, for their activity is eternally unvarying. This idea of the fit participant has come up before. One of the key points to understand about providence is that we can each participate to the degree that we are able. This is a central notion behind the practices really of any wisdom tradition. The whole point of clearing away false beliefs, of gaining insights into truth, of engaging in theurgic practices which strengthen our energy and unify the soul. They are all for the purpose of participating more fully in the higher realms. So soon as a thing is ready for communion with them, straightway they are present. That is the law of providence. If then any terrestrial thing be fit to participate them, they are present even to it. They have fulfilled all things with themselves, and though present more mightily to the higher principles, they reveal themselves also to the intermediate orders in a manner that is connascent with such a station. And for the meanest orders, there is a meanest mode of presence. Now, to be clear, this difference in presence is not because the gods choose some over others. Their transcendence, again, remember, it allows them to be equally present to all. Instead, this difference in presence is because of the fitness of the participants. That's what determines this degree of the God's presence. All receive that which is proper to their station. Thus they extend downwards, even to the uttermost existence. And hence it is that even in these appear reflections of the first principles, and there is sympathy between all things, the derivative pre-existing in the primal reflected in the derivative. For we saw that all characters have three modes of existence, in their causes, substantially, and by participation, which nicely summarizes Proposition 65. And I will end it there. I hope you found that helpful. Please hit the like button if you did, and drop me a question or comment below too. Thank you very much.